They say that the forest devours children alive, but the truth is much, much worse. Hansel and Gretel had heard every whispered warning, every frightened tale about the woods near their village. Yet desperation had driven their father into the cruel arms of superstition. Hunger had hollowed their cheeks and weakened their limbs, and so they walked, abandoned and lost, deeper into the darkness than anyone had ever dared. Twisted trees loomed overhead, their branches clawing at the moonless sky, blocking out any shred of starlight. The air was thick, heavy with an unnatural silence, punctuated only by their quick, shallow breaths. "We're going to be all right," Hansel whispered, gripping his sister's trembling hand tightly. But his voice lacked conviction, betrayed by the cold sweat trickling down his spine. Suddenly, through the suffocating gloom, they glimpsed a faint, shimmering glow. It pulsed like a heartbeat, enticing them forward. Their fear was momentarily forgotten, as curiosity and hunger took over, pulling their fragile bodies towards the light. Emerging from the shadowy veil, they stood before an impossible sight. A cottage crafted from sweets, candies glistening temptingly beneath a sinister, sugary glaze. Gretel's stomach twisted. Something was deeply wrong. Yet Hansel, driven by an aching hunger, reached out to break a piece from the candy-coated wall. Before his fingers touched the surface, the cottage door swung open with a slow, chilling creak. Standing on the threshold was an old woman whose smile stretched grotesquely across her wrinkled face, her eyes gleaming with a disturbing intensity. "My poor lost children," she crooned softly, beckoning them forward. "Come inside. I have food enough to fill your empty bellies." As Hansel stepped eagerly into the cottage, Gretel hesitated, a primal instinct screaming at her to run. But her brother was already inside, the warm glow of the fireplace casting deceptive comfort across his face. Swallowing her dread, Gretel followed him, unaware that their fate was already sealed. Inside, the walls flickered with firelight, casting long, dancing shadows that seemed alive. Plates, piled high with rich, steaming food, appeared before them, and the old woman watched intently as they ate, her smile never faltering. Days melted together, each indistinguishable from the next, until Hansel awoke with a jolt, his wrists chained, and his sister's anguished cries echoing through the cottage. Panic surged through him as the woman emerged from the shadows, her true form hideous and monstrous beneath the flickering flames. "You're ready now," she hissed, running skeletal fingers over his trembling body. "Soon, your flesh will sustain me." Gretel, trapped but not defeated, watched helplessly, her mind racing desperately for a plan. She had to save Hansel, even if it meant sacrificing herself. As night fell once again, Gretel lay awake, pretending to sleep, listening to the witch's raspy breathing grow steady and deep. Summoning courage she didn't know she possessed, she slipped silently from her bed, eyes fixed on the red-hot poker glowing in the fire's heart. Her heart pounding fiercely in her chest, Gretel grasped the poker's iron handle, its heat searing into her skin, fueling her resolve. She crept closer to the slumbering figure, the grotesque form hidden beneath filthy blankets. Gretel raised the glowing iron high above her head. "You won't take him from me," she whispered, driving the poker down with all her might. The witch awoke with an unearthly shriek, thrashing violently as flames erupted from her flesh, igniting the cottage in a blaze of unnatural fire. Gretel freed Hansel, the chains shattering beneath her desperate blows. They fled hand in hand, through billowing smoke and searing heat, escaping the inferno as it consumed everything in its path. Outside, the forest watched silently, shadows gathering hungrily around them. As they stumbled forward, away from the smoldering ruins, Gretel glanced back, her heart freezing at the sight. The old woman stood unharmed amid the flames, her skeletal form outlined against the roaring blaze. "Run!" Gretel screamed, gripping Hansel's hand tighter, as the forest itself seemed to close around them. Branches twisting like grasping fingers, roots rising to trip their fleeing feet. The siblings ran blindly through the dark maze, terror pulsing through their veins with every heartbeat. Hours later, exhausted and bruised, they emerged from the forest's edge, their village visible through dawn's first light. But as they stumbled homeward, the realization of what they'd witnessed clung to them like a shadow. The villagers whispered that Hansel and Gretel had escaped a terrible fate. But the children knew better. The forest never truly lets you go. Its darkness remains forever inside you, haunting every dream, every waking moment, and somewhere, deep within the twisted woods, the old woman waits patiently, her smile unchanging, ready to welcome the next lost souls foolish enough to enter her sweet, poisoned embrace. Remember, not all fairy tales end happily. Some stories haunt you forever.